The book, English book review. Of Andhra Pradesh State Council of Higher Education for a book review. Dr. Rajshekhar is lecturer in English Degree College in Srikakulam. He has done his MPhil and PhD in the year 2006. He has done his MSc. He has worked in Libya for a couple of years. Also at degree college. He is also a certified British Council language trainer. His strategies in the language in general and writing in specific. His MPhil thesis explores various ways and strategies to understand the nuance of reading in an ESL classroom. He has published research papers and presented papers at national and international seminars and conferences. He is recognized as research guide by the Andhra University and presently guiding 3 doctoral scholars. His areas of specialization include second language acquisition, applied linguistics, English for specific purposes, learner autonomy, bilingual methodology, pedagogy of the oppressed. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir, for that short and crispy introduction. Thank you so much. First of all, I would like to thank the chairperson APSHI, as well as the Director, Collegiate of Education, and Dr. Srirangam Matthew, sir, from APSHI, as well as Dr. P. Anil, sir, from the Collegiate Education. I also like to thank my principal for giving me this opportunity to kind of present my talk on the present topic, the rime of the ancient mariner. Sorry, 1 second. Yeah. So, well, today I'm going to talk about the book on the rime of the ancient mariner. The writer is Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Well, I have divided my presentation into the following parts. The need for reading habits. I should really appreciate this initiative from the APSHI regarding the cultivation of reading habits among the student community is really praiseworthy, and it's a highly relevant thought, which is very much applicable to the present generation. So in this context, I would like to talk about the need for the reading habits in the first place. And then I would like to go on to the introduction of the author and the poem. And I will also talk about the summary of the poem, as well as the key themes that the poem contains. And the next part of my presentation would be to have a look at the socio-political, cultural perspectives of the poem. And then I will conclude my presentation over there. So, yeah. So the sorry, yeah. Well, before we start off with the first topic, that's the need for the reading habits. I would like to start with this quote: "Water, water everywhere, and all the boats did shrink. Water, water everywhere, nor any drop to drink." This is in fact one of the excerpts. I mean, the verses that were taken from the rhyme of the ancient mariner. I have chosen this particular quote as the introductory slide because the entire presentation of my topic depends upon this slide. You can just understand the kind of situation, you can just understand the kind of human predicament that is very well shown by the author Samuel Taylor Coleridge when he was writing this poem. Water, water everywhere, and all the birds did shrink. Water, water everywhere, nor any drop to drink. This is a very pathetic situation, though the crew members, along with the mariner, were on board. They were amidst the sea, where the water is surrounded all around, but still they were unable to have the access to drinking water. That is the kind of a situation, that is the kind of a predicament. This slide should actually trigger the thought process of what this poem or what the theme or what's the message that is going to be about the entire presentation. Water, water everywhere, and all the birds did shrink. Water, water everywhere, nor any drop to drink. So I've just triggered the thought on your minds, on the mind of the audience. You can just keep thinking alongside listening to my presentation. Well, I'll get back to it. So now I will try to talk about the need for the reading habits. The Talk the Book is a very wonderful program. There's no doubt about it. But on the other hand, the very motive of organizing this program is to cultivate the reading habits. If you look at the present or the contemporary society, especially the youth or the student community, they are falling short of these reading skills and their reading habits. They are hardly reading any books, so that this reading habit is slowly, gradually being, disappearing from the student community, which is a very alarming thing. And we very well know that reading is the window onto the world of knowledge. And the entire presentation would be short if I fail to mention Francis Bacon quote, "Reading maketh a perfect man, conversation a ready man, and writing an exact man." If you want to become a complete man, if you want to become an informative man with the information and knowledge, you should be having a very good reading habits. Otherwise, without reading habits, you will not be able to achieve anything, especially when you are a student. So, of course, the very need is the knowledge and learning. Well, reading not only broadens your knowledge, reading not only, kind of expose you to new ideas, new perspectives and information. that you encounter in your daily life, but it can also enhance your critical thinking and problem solving skills. So knowledge will automatically help you to develop your critical thinking skills and your creativity. So it is also a kind of mental stimulation, because the more you keep reading, the more your cognitive or the cognitive processes become more active. The cognitive processes, in the sense, trying to know things, trying to learn things, trying to understand things. So when you keep learning, your cognition your cognition is active, and it will help your brain to be active, and it will help you to improve your cognitive functioning, and also it will help you in many ways. So the cognitive processes will be very active if you're reading if you're reading regularly, or if you're developing your reading habits. So improved focus and attention, concentration. Of course, your attention, your concentration will also be improved if you are trying to develop this reading habit. It's not only that, not only these advantages, one of the great researchers in the field of English language teaching, especially in the second language acquisition, Stephen Krasher, in one of his latest recent speeches, he would say that reading the books or reading habits would delay the Alzheimer's disease. The Alzheimer's disease is, the forgetfulness, or the tendency to forget things very often will be, delayed if you're regularly reading books. So there is one great advantage, of course, having 2 to 3 shots of coffee every day will also keep your, memory active, but otherwise reading will also help you to delay the Alzheimer's syndrome, or Alzheimer, entering into your body. So that is the advantage you have of reading, cultivating good reading habits. And also, of course, your vocabulary expansion. If you regularly read, it will increase your exposure to new words, and also thereby it will also expand your vocabulary, and of course your communication skills. So if you are regularly reading, your vocabulary will increase, and if your vocabulary is increasing, your communication skills also will increase. And of course, reading is also a kind of an outlet where you can vent your stress, or you can release your stress by reading various kinds of books for relaxation or mental rejuvenation or whatever. So reading has got many advantages. Of course, better writing skills, and of course there is also research that is there to prove that the amount of reading is directly proportional to the quality of your writing. The more you read, the quality of your writing also increases with your reading skills. So reading skills has also got a direct bearing upon your writing abilities, because it will improve your writing abilities, and it will help you to become an effective communicator. And of course, empathy and emotional intelligence, it helps you if you're reading various books. If you come across various characters in the text, you come across various cultures, so that your emotional intelligence and your empathy in the sense, trying to step into the shoes of others, trying to see the others' conditions from their own point of view. All these kind of your emotional intelligence, knowing about the people, knowing about their emotions, by reading, it will help you to become emotionally intelligent, and also you will also be able to become more empathetic. And of course, it will also help you to grow. Help you to grow your personal development. Because of reading, you are able to think differently, you are able to take better decisions, and you are able to pursue your goals in a better way. And many things will be accrued, or you can assume any advantages by developing the habit of reading or reading habits. So this is the first slide, and now I'm going to the second slide. Well, now the reason why I've chosen this book, especially the Rime of the Ancient Mariner, is something, I was fascinated by the work of Samuel Taylor Coleridge, by the way he treats the nature, the beauty of the nature, the power of the nature, and the supernatural element, the spirituality, many such aspects which were interwoven into this poem make this poem an outstanding and a wonderful poem to read and enjoy. So that is the reason why I've chosen this particular poem written by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Before we go ahead, before we progress on the presentation, I would like to introduce Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Was born on October 21st, 1972 in England. And of course is one of the leading figures in the romantic movement. And the lyrical ballads is one of the lyrical ballads, in fact, is it's a collaborative work by William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge, which was done in 1798. In fact, 1798 is the year in which the Romantic period begins, especially with the publication of the lyrical ballads. And in these lyrical ballads, Samuel Taylor Coleridge has contributed 4 poems, and one of them is, the present poem which we are discussing, the Rime of the Ancient Mariner. And of course, we have Foster Mother's Tale, and we have the Dungeon and other poems too. But 4 poems are the contribution made by, the Samuel Taylor Coleridge in the lyrical ballads. So he was not only a poet, but also a philosopher and a literary critic. His major work on philosophy is Biographia Literaria. It's one of his philosophical works, which was produced in 1817. It focuses on the romantic thought and the nature of poetry. Talks about the imagination, the primary imagination, and so on. That is one of his good works. And he has introduced the notion of suspension of disbelief in order to appreciate the poetry, in order to appreciate the work of art. One has to really suspend the disbelief. Unless and until you suspend your disbelief, you will not be able to enjoy the work of art. So this notion is forwarded, or this notion is developed by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. So the other works of Coleridge are Kubla Khan, Christabel, Frost at Night, and so on. So this is a brief introduction about the author. And now I would like to move on to the introduction of the poem. That's the Rime of the Ancient Mariner. This poem is written and published in 1798 in the first edition of Lyrical Ballads. And the rhyme scheme of the poem is A, B, A, B. This is the first verse of the stanza would rhyme with the third verse of the stanza, and the second verse of the stanza rhymes with the fourth verse of the stanza. So this particular poem recounts the experiences of a sailor. Excuse me. It recounts the experiences of a sailor who has returned from a long sea voyage. So the sailor is trying to recount, is trying to narrate the kind of experiences he has gone through at sea through this poem. And in fact, it is one of the longest poems written by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. And this poem is divided into 7 parts with 620 verses. The rhyme scheme, of course, as I spoke, it is A-B, structured in the ballad form. Of course, it's a ballad. A ballad is something which is talking about a tragedy. It's a narrative poem which talks about a tragedy, which talks about an adventure, or talks about any other fascinating theme. So it is Coleridge's longest poem, and it is a signal shift to modern poetry and the beginning of romantic poetry. So with this poem, it has begun the beginning of the modern poetry, and also the romantic poetry has heralded or ensured from this particular poem, Rime of the Ancient Mariner. And it is also the most famous poem with a blend of supernatural with deep moral and philosophical themes. So there is a lot to think, there's a lot to learn, there's a lot to understand because this rhyme of the ancient mariner is a multi-layered poem. Every layer you try to excavate, you will get to learn different things, different concepts, different notions from this particular poem. That way, this poem is very famous across the poetic world. Well, before we go on to talk about the themes, before we go on to critically analyze this poem and understand other facets of this poem, it is very important to first to get to know the summary, first to get to know the content of the poem. Then you will be able to understand the rest of the things very easily. So I will try to spend some time, probably a considerable amount of time, to get you understand the summary of this poem, so that you will start appreciating, or probably you will get motivated to read and by yourself and understand this literary piece of work. Well, this poem begins with an old sailor stopping a wedding guest to tell a story. So this old sailor who has finished his voyage, has come back to his home, and one fine day, as the poem begins, he was somewhere near to a wedding center, probably a church. He was waiting at the doorstep, and suddenly there were three young men who were trying to step into the church. Suddenly, this old man grabs hold of a young man. He stops him, and he starts telling his story, even without any kind of an introduction. So that is something very interesting at the beginning of the poem. Initially, the young man who was about to go to the church wedding, he was quite surprised. He was quite shocked the way this old sailor was trying to force him to stop and forcing him to listen to his story. So the tale begins with his ship departing on its journey despite initial good fortune. So he started narrating the story that has happened at sea. He says that the ship he has boarded, it has departed, it has started its journey. And despite the initial good fortune, the ship is driven south by a storm and eventually reaches icy waters of Antarctica. So as the sea was progressing through, initially the journey was good, the voyage was good, but suddenly there was some kind of an unrest at sea because of the storm and other things, and the ship was forced to be driven towards southwards, towards the icy waters. The waters are very icy, and it's towards the pole, that's Antarctica, and they were kind of stuck over there. And it was all the place where they was stopped. It was also very kind of a very panicking, very calm, misty, foggy, and so on. It's a kind of a very, very silent, chartered area they have been into. So they were all under panic. They were not knowing what to do, how to go out of this place, how to move out to a better location, a familiar location. They were all perturbed, disturbed. Then suddenly, out of blue, there is an albatross bird which comes out of nowhere, and it helps this albatross bird, which was like a godsend bird that has come to the rescue of this ship. It comes and it leads the ship out of this ice jam where it is stuck. So this is something very supernatural kind of. It's something which is very spiritual, something there to understand, something which is very invisible kind of a concept. The ship, along with the sailors and the mariner, was stuck somewhere in an ice jam, and suddenly there is an albatross bird which comes out, and it helps the ship to relocate its location, relocate its path, and it relocates its path. Then the bird started sailing back, and in the next couple of few days, the bird, the crew on the ship, they befriended this bird. They started feeding this bird, and the bird was kind of enjoying the company of the crew. And suddenly, out of no reason, one fine day, the mariner, he takes his crossbow and he shoots the bird for no reason. Nobody knows the reason why he has shot the bird. The bird, in fact, helped the ship, the crew of the ship to come back onto a normal path. Maybe the reason is that it doesn't value the life of other creatures or something else. Maybe we need to explore the answer. Although the crew is angry with the mariner, they change their minds when the mist gets cleared and weather gets better, so becoming accomplishes with them. So as the days passed by, this crew on the ship, they missed the company of this albatross bird, which was shot down by the mariner. So these people were very unhappy with the mariner because the way that he killed the bird. But after traveling for some days, they were able to experience a clear weather. The mist is gone, the fog is also gone, the way is very clear. They are heading, and these crew members thought it is because of the death of the albatross bird they were able to find a clear pathway. But they did not understand that by having this kind of a thought, they have also become the accomplices. They have also become the partners in crime in killing the albatross bird. That is something which is very tragic. I have presented a picture over here. You can just imagine the bird. You can also see the flag that is being hoisted on the mast of the ship. And there is this huge bird, albatross bird, with a large wings flying over the ship. And the crew, you can also find the crew there. And you can also see, if you can see it properly, the fish were also swimming in the waters. You can, if you can have a take a keen look, you will understand that. Yeah, yeah. So the mariner himself has murdered the bird, and the crew, who were initially very angry because of the bird was shot by the mariner, they also started understanding that because the bird was shot dead, they were able to have a clear path free of fog and mist and so on. But the ultimate reality is that the tragedy has ensured into their life then itself. The tragedy started from that thought itself. The sea spirits got so angry with them for supporting the mariner crew. The sea spirits also got very angry for supporting the mariner. And now, after sailing for some kilometers or some miles away, the south wind now sends them into uncharted waters near the equator, where the ship is becalmed. So now, after having a smooth sail for some time, after the albatross bird was shot dead, now the south wind now sends them into uncharted waters. Uncharted waters means there is no idea of where the location exactly is. Uncharted waters which are near to the equator, where the ship is becalmed. Where the ship is becalmed. And now the sailors, the crew, they are very thirsty. They are hungry because they were stranded somewhere. They don't have access to clean, fresh water. But there is water everywhere surrounded by their ship, which is seawater, which is not used, which is not fit for drinking. So in the anger, all the sailors forced the mariner to wear the albatross bird around his neck to signify the burden that mariner must suffer from killing the bird. So as they started suffering, as they started growing thirsty, that they were unable to even speak to each other because of the thirst that was created due to lack of water, these sailors became so angry, and these sailors, the crew members, forced the mariner to wear the dead albatross, the bird, around his neck, so that he would understand the burden, the burden or the sin he has committed by killing the bird. So they wanted him to suffer. by carrying the weight of the albatross over his neck. So they have put the albatross bird around his neck. So in this context, you will get this quote here: water, water everywhere, and all the birds did shrink. Water, water everywhere, nor any drop to drink, is where these lines will come across in this poem. So the sailors are thirsty, and now, of course, that all those things were happening. They were suffering because of the sin committed by the mariner. So again, there is another quote: day after day we stuck, nor breath nor motion, as idle as painted ship upon a painted ocean. Their situation, their predicament seemed to be that their days are passing by, then they are stuck, they are not moving anywhere, not even an inch, nor breath nor motion. They were even literally struggling for any kind of a movement, for any kind of a progress. And the entire scene appeared to be like an idle as painted ship on a painted ocean. It all appeared that if you are somewhere close to that ship, you will just get to see that a ship is painted upon a painted ocean. So that kind of a scenery, that kind of a scene is visible if you look at the stranded, stuck ship at the middle of the sea. So these are the lines taken from the poem. So all of a sudden, from nowhere, the ship suddenly encounters a ghostly hulk. A ghostly hulk, a kind of a ship that is approaching from westwards towards this stranded ship. So this was seen by the mariner, the sailor, and he wanted to kind of inform the approaching ship to his crew members, but he could not speak. He had a parched throat. It has almost become so dry that he could not even produce, or he could not even make any sound. He could not even signal the arrival of another ship from another place. So such is the predicament of, so in order to alert the crew about the approaching ship, what he does is he himself bites his own arm, and he drinks the blood that oozes from his arm to make his throat smoothen, to make his throat smoothen to speak. So after drinking the blood, then he would alert his own crew members, saying that there is a ship encounter. So all the crew members on the ship were very happy that there is a ship approaching them, which is going to rescue them. But when the ship has approached that ghostly hulk, this is where the supernatural element, the ghost and the mysterious things that are appearing on the scene itself shows that this poem is a supernatural poem. So in the ship that has approached the ship, it is not a ship at all. It is a skeleton of the ship. And on the skeleton of the ship, there are two people. That is, one is death, a skeleton, and the other one is the life in death. It's a nightmare, which is actually portrayed as a woman who has got red lips and red hair and some kind of a very awkward, a pale woman who has a kind of white colored body and such thing. I'm going to show you the picture in the next slide. So the death and the life in death, which is a pale woman. Death is a skeleton, and life in death is a pale woman. So both these people are these supernatural things. The death and the nightmare. They are playing dice. They are sitting and they are playing dice. What are they playing? What are they playing for? They are playing for the souls of the crew. And with the roll of the dice, the death wins the souls of crew members, whereas life in death wins the life of the mariner. Very unfortunate and pathetic thing is that these two things, this is the death and the nightmare, they are playing the dice, and with the roll of the dice, The death wins the souls of all the crew, around 200 crew members were on board. And life in death wins the life of the mariner. So now all the, you just you can see the picture of the death and life in death, the two crew, the two ghostly objects which on the ship. So they have won the souls of, while playing their dice, they have won the souls of these crew members as well as the mariner. So slowly all crew members die, but the mariner lives on to endure a fate worse than the death of for killing the albatross. All of a sudden, as their souls were won by the death, so all the crew members, they were slowly dying, and they were angrily looking into the eyes of the mariner because of the crime, because of the sin he has committed. They thought that their lives were being lost because of the sin. So slowly all these crew members, they were dying and dying and dying. So this scene, this horrible scene, you can just imagine the ship which was stranded at sea, and all the crew members were falling down, dying down because of the curse, And the mariner himself, though he was, his soul was won by life and death, his soul was not taken. He was made to stand. He was made to watch this gruesome, horrible, panicking, mysterious incident where all the crew members were literally falling down and dying down. And this scene he has to watch for 7 days and nights. The curse in the eyes of the dead bodies of crew surrounded him. Such was the very pathetic. And so he was seeing all the dead bodies and their cursed eyes, and he was feeling very, very guilty. He was feeling guilty and guilty. So what he does, slowly, as he could not see the dead bodies, he wanted to see into the heaven. And at the same time, he also sees the slimy creatures, the slimy fishes that are swimming in the sea, and he feels very surprised. He feels very mysterious for the reason, on one hand, all the crew members were falling down, they were dying because of the curse. On the other hand, the nature and the natural creatures that were in the sea, they were swimming and enjoying. So he could not understand the contradiction. He could not understand the paradox of himself, and he literally thinks of, remorse, and he wants to plead the God for the kind of sin he has committed. And slowly he started understanding, realizing the sin he has committed. So the mariner's curse gets slowly lifted when he begins to appreciate the sea creatures swimming in the. Slowly, with that repentance, seeing the dead bodies falling down, around 200 members living amongst them, and also seeing the happily joyful, slimy creatures that were swimming in the sea, then he understands, then he had a kind of realization, then he starts slowly praying to God, asking for an excuse, asking for him to pardon his sin. Then looking into the heaven, he started praying, appreciating the beauty of nature, appreciating the creatures of the nature. And then slowly the albatross, which was actually hanging around his neck, falls down, which is symbolically said that the sin is being slowly lifted from the body or mind of this mariner. So as he sincerely prayed, the dead albatross falls from his neck, and the sin is partially gone. So there we get to understand that he prayeth best who loveth best. All things both great and small, for the dear God who loveth us, he made and loveth all. So the poem here, it's an expression of spiritual world. Nature is God's creation. Nature is all the creatures in the nature is created by God. So when the mariner tries to control the nature, it is an insult not to the nature but also to the God. So he is the who prayeth best, who loveth best. All things, both great and small, irrespective of animals or birds or whatever, all the creatures should be equally loved, and that is only possible for the person who prayeth best and who loveth best. For dear God has made all of us, and he made and loves all of us. So harming nature then becomes a moral failure and a sin. So sin leads him to punishment. And punishment comes as a combination of natural and spiritual, which is a supernatural punishment to the mariner. So this is one of the famous quotes that we come across in this poem. So it then starts to rain and the dead bodies get possessed by good spirits who steer the ship. In a trance, the mariner understands the ship is being powered supernaturally. So once the sin is being absolved, one is being redeemed of his sin, one is being redeemed of the kind of murder he has committed. Slowly it starts to rain, and then out of happiness, the mariner drinks the fresh rainwater, and then he kind of goes into a trance, and he also feels, experience that all the good angels are getting into the bodies of the dead crew. They are being possessed by good spirits, and slowly these good spirits take the control of the ship and they steer the ship, and the ship starts moving. Finally, the mariner wakes from his trance and sees his homeland. When he's about to reach the shore, suddenly there is another ship, which is another boat, which is waiting there, where there is a hermit with a hermit boy and other man. When they saw the approaching ship, the hermit moves into the waters and then goes and rescues, extends a helping hand to the mariner, and he pulls out of that ship onto the homeland. And immediately after coming onto the mainland, the realized mariner was pardoned by the nature. He starts narrating his story to the hermit. He thinks that it is a penance he has to pay for the sin he has committed. Only through this penance, only through narrating his story, narrating his sinful story, narrating the punishment he has received, and narrating the kind of loss he had to face by losing the crew because of his sin, by killing the albatross bird, he thinks that he would tell to everybody, he would enlighten, he would bring a realization to all the people on the earth so that they would not commit any more sin. So he thinks that is the only way, that's the only penance he can pay, and he starts telling the story over and over, teaching a lesson to those who he meets. So he narrates the whole story. He narrates the whole story to the marriage guest. The marriage guest goes home, and the next day he wakes up and he becomes more wiser because he's sensitized. He was sensitized by this particular thought. Sensitized by the mariner. That nature is everything. Nature is the creation of God. Whoever tries to harm the nature, whoever tries to cause hurt to the nature, he will be punished. Because nature avenges death. Nature avenges. Which is what we have experienced in this poem. So this is a brief summary because we do not have enough time to talk about it very comprehensively. So I've just given you a brief summary of this poem. Now we would see what are the major themes, the major themes we come across, as I already said, that nature and spiritual world. So nature is nothing but the expression of the spiritual world. Nature is God's creation. When the mariner tries to control nature, it is an insult. They are trying to control this. He has killed the creature that was created by the God. So he is trying to take the control of the nature, but it is an insult, not just to the nature, but also to God. So the vengeance, or the punishment has come. The punishment has come in the form of natural and spiritual, and spiritual, that is supernatural. We have seen the ghostly creatures coming on a ship and trying to play dice, through which the souls of both the mariner and the crew were taken away. So the supernatural and the unknown. Yes, of course, the supernatural element, because the mariners encounter with the ghost ship, and also the figures of death, life, death. There are two figures there on the board, the ship, that is death and life in death. The entire thing, tends to be very supernatural, which drives the narrative, which is very strange, in fact. So this is also a supernatural theme. Can also get a supernatural theme from this particular poem, and of course the guilt and the redemption, because after killing the albatross bird, the mariner with a deep sense of guilt, he prays God, he pleads God for redeeming. So this is also kind of a Christian philosophy, where people sin and they become guilty, and then they kind of ask for redemption from the God, and finally they are, redeemed, of absolved of their sin. So there was a guilt. The mariner commits a crime, and of course the poem also very clearly illustrates the consequences of doing such a sin, and also it also shows the path towards redemption, how to get freed from the sin or the evil that he has committed. And if you go on, the power and beauty of the nature is also one of the themes. So here, the nature is portrayed, or nature is depicted, as something very beautiful, and at the same time vengeful. Nature is definitely beautiful, and if the human interaction with the nature is as beautiful as it is, then there will not be any kind of a problem, because nature is nature is like a mother. Every citizen, every individual has the responsibility to preserve and protect and sustain the nature. If you are not doing that, you are causing harm, and definitely the nature is going to fight back. Nature is going to take revenge. Nature is going to avenge such harm, such damage that one does. As it happened, it is both beautiful and vengeful as well. So this poem very beautifully, establishes the relationship, the humanity or human beings relation to nature, highlighting the madness violation of the nature, and also how the disruption of the natural order happened, and also the resulting resulting consequences of so the power and beauty of the nature is also well portrayed in this particular poem. And of course, another theme could be the power of storytelling. The power of storytelling, in the sense here, the mariner is compelled. The mariner is compelled to share his story with others as a form of penance, because he wanted to free himself from the guilt. He wanted to redeem himself from the kind of sin he has committed, and he started sharing his story, telling everybody, enlightening them, giving them a realization, trying to illustrate his own personal experiences and moral lessons through oral tradition. So here the poet, you can see that the mariner has shared his tale to the wedding guest, emphasizing the role of storytelling in both healing and teaching others. So the power of the storytelling is also a kind of a theme, where it leads an individual to redeem himself from the sin he has committed. So these are some of the themes which we come across when we go through this poem. And moving on to the next slide, there is also a need to look at uh, look this poem in the socio-politico-cultural perspectives on the poem. So if you try to look at this particular poem in the socio-political and cultural perspective, you will definitely you will definitely get a different understanding altogether. So the romanticism and the individual, what we get to understand or what we need to understand from this poem is that Samuel Taylor Coleridge, along with William Wordsworth, and the following poets, P.B. Shelley, John Keats, all these people, they belong to the romantic tradition, and the romantic tradition itself has professed the ideas or the things like, the nature, the beauty of the nature, all this, actually, the romantic people, the romantic writers have valued emotion. They have over reason, and they have glorified and appreciated the nature. Because if you look at the previous age to the Romantic period, the Enlightenment period, the Augustan period, where the writers have given themselves to the logic, to the reason, to strict rules and standard, rhyme, standard, rules and regulations. But with the advent of the Romantic period, especially after the publication of the lyrical ballads, with the Romanticism, the poets, especially the Romantic poets, have favored emotion to the logic or reason. They have appreciated the nature, and they have glorified the nature in all possible ways. So here, romanticism in the sense, the individual in the sense, the mariner's journey. When you look at this poem, the mariner's journey can be seen as a metaphor for the individual's relationship with the nature and the consequences of disrupting it. So he has shot the albatross, which is a symbol of nature and good omen. So definitely nature, when they were stuck in the waters, the albatross has come and it has helped. It has brought good luck to them. It was like a good omen to them, and it helped them to get back onto the track of their journey. So that particular bird, albatross, which is a symbol of nature and good omen, it was killed, thereby violating the natural order. And of course, the individual has spoiled the harmony of the nature. And so the subsequent punishment suggests that romantic belief in connection between the human action and the nature's moral order. So whenever this harmony, whenever this balance between the nature and the human, I can definitely, that is going to lead to moral correction, which we have seen in this particular 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 poem. So the second point is the environmental and ecological perspective. Yes, here the environment, because the mariners reckless or merciless or ruthless killing of the albatross, which has disturbed the balance of the environment or the ecology, reflects a growing awareness. It reflects, of course, also gives us a kind of awareness of the destructive impact of human actions on the environment, which is very, very, very important. So the punishment and suffering the mariner endures after this act can be seen as a symbolic warning. This poem is not just a poem in itself. It has a lot of lessons. The man how the man tries to damage the nature, and how he falls into a kind of a sin, and then how he has to go through a horrible experiences at sea is all a lesson. This is like when you're trying to exploit nature and trying to destroy the beauty of the nature. Nature becomes vengeful. It tries to take revenge, and it tries to take the river. So environmental and ecological perspective is also well presented in this poem. Likewise, colonialism and imperialism. If you look at the 18th and the 19th centuries, there were the times of great exploration and cultural expansion, because the Britain, the European powers, particularly Britain, it was deeply involved in maritime trades, exploration, imperial context. Before the Britain became, the sun never sets on the British Empire. So it started exploring, it started maritime trades, and it started imperial conquests, trying to conquer everybody and trying to loot, plunder the whole wealth of the world. So here, the albatross is a symbol, rather, is often seen as a symbol of nature's purity. The white color, the peace, the serenity. It is a symbol of, when you look at it in a symbolic point of view, it represents the nature's purity and can be understood as representing the indigenous or untouched cultures. Maybe this sailor is this imperialistic ruler, the European or the English man who is trying to expand on his cultural colonial encounters, is trying to exploit. This particular bird is a symbol of nature's purity, and it is also can be a symbol of the indigenous cultures, the untouched cultures, which were impacted by the European colonialism. So the mariner's journey could be read as a metaphor of consequence of imperialism and exploitation as well. So this can also be understood that way. It can be also be understood that way when you take the sailor as a British man who is trying to explore the world, trying to kind of destroy, conquering things. And this white bird, albatross bird, is a nature's purity, symbol of nature's purity, or the cultures, the untouched or indigenous cultures, because they have gone across the world, like Africa, they have been to Asia, they have been to so many other places, occupied, plundered the whole wealth, right? So this can also be a metaphor that way. So again, another perspective that can be derived from this is the guilt, redemption, and morality. And of course, by killing the albatross bird, yes, it's a guilt. And then if you look at the poem, the sailor had a very panicking, very painful experience looking at the dead man lying around and the happily swimming creatures in the sea. He looks for redemption. He is in a quest for redemption, which can be seen in the light of the romantic interest in human emotions, conscience, and the individual struggle, and all such things. So, uh, definitely, if you look at this poem, you will understand that there is a connection. There is a connection. There is an understanding that there is a guilt, there is a redemption, and there is a morality. The way in which this particular man, the mariner, has come out alive and as a penance, he is actually sharing his story to all. And of course, Christian symbolism and allegory. Of course, Christianity was a central aspect, central religion of life in the 18th century, especially. And many romantic poets have, written on the Christian themes in an unconventional way. And of course, the mariner's journey can be seen as a moral allegory for the human condition, emphasizing personal responsibility and the consequences of immoral actions and the possibility of salvation through a deeper connection with the divine and nature world. So there's also kind of a Christian symbolism, sin, guilt, redemption, all these things, all these things are also embedded in this poem, and we can also derive this particular uh, perspective from this particular poem. So, and also, of course, isolation and social alienation. If you look at the mariner who was stranded, the mariner isolation, after all the crew members were dying, you will understand that this particular man, he was isolated, is a kind of experiencing a kind of an alienation, which is actually a punishment for his crime. And it also reflects the theme that isolation that many romantic poets felt in response to industrialization and loss of connection with the nature. So it was also a time where the colonialism is at the beginning, and it is also going to be peak. And also the entire thing is getting industrialized, and the people are being isolated. So that can also be a picture we can draw from this. So the modern developments, actually, especially in the 18th and the ensuing 19th centuries, have also kind of brought isolation and social alienation among the people. People and people's mindset is also one of the themes which we can draw, draw from this particular poem. So there are many other themes can also be understood, like eco-criticism and also psychoanalysis of the mariner's character or mariner's thing can also be derived. But I think these perspectives are enough to understand the character, the holistic character of the mariner, and the dominant theme that the poem is actually conveying to us. So the idea is the conclusion, or the concluding part is that the basic idea of this poem is that the poem shows nature as an expression of the spiritual world, and nature is God's creation. Whether it is low or high, it doesn't matter. Everything is created by God. And when the mariner tries to control nature, it is an insult not just to the nature but also to God. So harming nature then becomes a moral failure and sin. And of course, this sin leads to punishment. And this punishment becomes a combination of natural and spiritual, that is supernatural, the ghostly things, ghostly creatures, which have come in the form of death and life in death. And this poem shows the importance of valuing and appreciating nature, because nature is spiritual necessity. So we can also draw parallels to the contemporary society, the contemporary social reality, that yes, nature is something which is very important, and there is every need that we need to appreciate the beauty and value of the nature. And before I wind up, I would like to suggest to the entire teaching fraternity that, especially the schools and colleges, that the teachers have a very important role to play, important role to cultivate the reading habits among the students, to make them good readers. So when we talk about the reading skills, we come across two approaches. One is the top-down approach, and the other one is bottom-up approach. When we talk about the top-down approach, it is very important to understand that in order to teach a reading skill, the student's background knowledge, the schema should be activated so that the students would engage themselves into the reading processes. As my personal experience goes on with my MPhil dissertation, I have experimented with three particular strategies to develop reading skills for the school learners. One is IPEC, how the teachers are skillful, especially the school and the college teachers, in orchestrating these strategies, like how you are actually making the students imagine, how the students are making to predict, elaborate, and confirm the lesson which they are going to teach. Likewise, the semantic expressions. So the top-down and the bottom-up approaches are very, very important in teaching the reading skills. So the students would be motivated, and they'll be able to become a good uh,
Sir, thank you, sir. Dr. Shekhar Geddada, well reviewed of Samuel Taylor called it the rhyme of the ancient barrier. On his review, he expressed that it is one of the most celebrated poems of the Romantic era, known for its rich imagery, supernatural themes, and deep moral undertones. It explores themes of guilt, punishment, and salvation. The supernatural elements such as the ghostly ship manned by death and life in death reinforce the theme of cosmic justice. And it is lyrical ballad structure with its archaic language and rhythmic flow creates a haunting and mesmerizing effect. The rhyme of the ancient manner serves as a mediation of humanity's relationship with nature. Thank you, Dr. Shekhar Geddada garu, for the English book review on Rhyme of the Ancient Barrier. See you next week with Rapsheet Tag the Book, Telugu book review. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.